I'm Ed Adams, and you're listening to the AFCA Podcast. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Season 3 of the AFCA Podcast. And on this episode, we talk to Chief Content Officer of the SpringHill Company, Jamal Henderson. We'll jump into this after the break. The AFCA Podcast is sponsored by Morgan Stanley Global Sports and Entertainment. Four-time NBA MVP LeBron James and his manager/business partner Maverick Carter founded SpringHill Entertainment in 2007. Their first project, a documentary More Than a Game in 2008, followed James and his Akron, Ohio high school teammates through the ups and downs of high school basketball and ultimately his journey to fame. Now since then, SpringHill has grown. With more than 30 projects under their belt and several more on the way, the company has evolved into an amalgamation of entities with one goal, according to their mission, to empower greatness in every individual. The Shop, Uninterrupted on HBO, Survivor's Remorse on the Starz Network, the documentary I Promise, and Self-Made, inspired by the life of Madam C.J. Walker, which is currently streaming on Netflix, are just a few of the projects you may have seen. The SpringHill Company has deals with Warner Brothers, Universal, Netflix, and Disney, to name a few. And the person responsible for developing that vision is Chief Content Officer Jamal Henderson. Since his start at the company in 2015, Jamal has taken point on several projects in film, television, and audio, including the Space Jam sequel, Space Jam Legacy, the British crime thriller Top Boy, and The Wall on NBC. Now, recently, AFCA had a chance to speak with Jamal via Zoom about his role at the SpringHill Company, how sports ties into pop culture, and how the company is moving forward during the pandemic. Jamal Henderson, thank you for being a part of the AFCA Podcast.
Good to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. So before we get into the nitty gritty of the SpringHill Company, your role is kind of unique. A lot of people may not have heard it before, a Chief Content Officer. So before we get started, why don't you explain exactly what a CCO is and does?
Well, I think at our company, it's really, what you would say president of production company or pod would do. But, our company is kind of unlike any other in that we have a lot of different things happening across film, TV, audio. So, the role is a chief content officer, but really, as you know, it's therapist, PA, writer's assistant, it's whatever I have to do. I mean, it's what a producer does, right? So.
All right. So, one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting when I was looking at your website is your mission. Your mission is very powerful. And there was something that stuck in my mind. And you said that you were culturally inspired entertainment. So what exactly is that? What is culturally inspired entertainment?
Yeah, I mean, look, for us, our ethos around culturally inspired entertainment is entire. Stories that are, for us, by us, but, not limited to, just things that you would assume would come from a company like ours, where LeBron is, the founder of this production company and this entity and this new company, right? So when we talk about culturally inspired, that culture could be, what he lived coming from Akron, Ohio, what I lived coming from Buffalo, New York. A lot of times they're the same. Could be what they lived in East London, which is why, we make a show called Top Boy, which, could be about entrepreneurship and what it's like, to be, with Maverick building a company, right? Which, harkens back to Madam C.J. Walker, which kind of found our way into that story. So we talk about culturally inspired projects because they're projects that sort of speak to us And, typically they do have a protagonist of color, but that's not the be all end all. It's really just about empowerment. We want to empower artists and creators, and so a lot of times when you're talking about empowerment, you're talking about people that don't look like us. And that's, by the way, that's above the line and below the line. So when we talk about culturally inspired, I think some of that language comes out. But really, the key word is around empowerment. And so empowering storytellers and empowering creatives to tell stories and do their thing. And so that's really what it's about. But I appreciate you checking out the website. There's some good stuff on there. There's some stuff that's probably not even on there yet that we got to get up there. So.
Oh, okay. Bet. So speaking about that, about culture, there's two questions, but my first question is about, really about how the industry's kind of changed. We've seen a lot of movement about acceptance, understanding about Black Lives Matter, but we've also learned a lot about biases, right? We've seen, especially in the industry, like issues about race, gender, LGBTQ issues, and those communities as a whole. But I was just curious, as a content provider, like how is SpringHill approaching tackling some of those issues, either in the programming that you already have slated or programs that you're thinking about road mapping moving forward?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, for us, it's a key part of our whole ethos. So it's not, we don't need to have a diversity initiative or, a program or anything, it's a big part of everything we do. Like I said, the crews we make, the key hires we make, the writers and directors that we want to develop with, it's all a part of that ethos. So everything you said, it's good. The social awakening that is happening is exciting, and it's an opportunity for all of us as creatives, but, it's also long overdue, right? So, we've been doing that work. So really nothing changes. I mean, it's not like I got up, on the day after George Floyd and changed what I was doing. If anything, we just did it harder, and so you see it in our work, and whether it comes out, it's really platform agnostic, whether it be More Than a Vote, right, which was a big initiative that happened this year that LeBron led, wholly, and we created a whole 501c4 and a whole different group of folks that are professionals in the political landscape to drive that. But on our team, we created a podcast that we did with Audible that featured voices from Latasha Brown to Stacey Abrams to LeBron James and everyone talking about that. Wesley Lowery and Tiffany Cross hosted it. Really, really powerful piece that's on Audible. And then we also did, Graduate Together, which was a giant sort of high school graduation during the pandemic that LeBron, did the commencement speech for and was broadcast to 30 different networks. So we try to just be about it, and not talk about it too much. But yeah, I mean, it's fascinating what's going on in the industry ever since, in the short time that we've been sort of a company. I mean, we've seen it change dramatically. And I think companies like ours are really well positioned to obviously drive it. But really, there's still not enough, man, not nearly enough, because I think it's like, we still have to have the writers' rooms to be able to hire the folks. We have to have the shows to be able to hire the staff. And so we're excited and hopeful of the future. But yeah, I mean, it's just the beginning. It's really just the beginning. And hopefully, it's a movement and not a moment for the buyers and for these networks and for these studios. But we'll continue to be here no matter what, man. We're going to keep doing what we do.
That's awesome. So let me follow up on that for a second, because there's something that you mentioned, which is really kind of compelling. Big programs that happen, the graduation program, and then the Vote Audible. Those happen very quickly, seem very organic, and happen very quickly. So as a company, as SpringHill, the company itself, it seems like you're positioned to pivot to where you need to be faster than you see with other companies. How are you structured so that you can do that? Is it just like, is it like LeBron just has an idea and it's like, okay, make it happen? and you just have everything lined up? Like, how is that process that you're able to get into that space and create good, compelling content, not just, I'm just in the space?
Appreciate that. Yeah, man. I mean, both of those projects are probably the wrong example because they are very fast, turn examples, and the team would kill me for talking about them. But we have a really strong team. We have executives across, unscripted, scripted television, film, and even audio now as well. And so we have, all the credit goes to the team. They have their own slates, but we're also moving fast against opportunities, right? And so, we have a great partner at Audible, and that wanted to do that program and wanted to make it available before the election, and so we were able to do that. We have, incredible partners on the graduation front, but everything else we're doing is probably on a timeline that you're used to, with regard to film and television. But we're in a lot of different lines of business. Like I said, the unscripted business moves a little bit faster with a special or something of that nature than Space Jam. It's all very different. But yeah, we're building that muscle, slowly but surely, with production resources and everything to do that in-house, so that we're able to move quickly and we're able to capitalize.
Okay. I mean, so since you mentioned that, let me ask you about this. A big part of what I was reading is about community and what SpringHill is about. And I was just kind of curious about like the next generation. So I wanted to know how does your company empower up and coming writers and filmmakers, or just people in general who are interested in the entertainment business and want to align and work? I don't want to just say with LeBron James, but with LeBron James.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, look, empowerment is a key part of everything we're doing, right? And it also translates to the team we're building. When I started, I mean, I was sort of like, employee number one at SpringHill, right? We were making a show called Survivor's Remorse at the time on Stars. We're now across everything, not just the studio business. We're over 100 people. So that gives you a sense of like how big the team is. And we have, just in the studio side, we've had a really, really exciting like intern program. So for young, folks coming out of, school, whether it be producing programs, whether it be film school, we've been able to intern with us. And then with regard to the projects we build, I mean, there's really an element in everything. I mean, Space Jam, Joel Taylor and Tony Rettenheimer, which were guys that were not even repped at the time. They wrote that movie with Terrence and Ryan Coogler. They wrote Space Jam. They wrote a great pass of a movie called Shooting Stars that we're doing at Universal. We have a brother named Cal Maddock, Chuck Kidd, who is a music video director you might know from Old Town Road. He's doing his first feature film in New Line with the House Party reboot that we're doing there. So we are all about empowerment, and you'll see it all up and down our slate. We take it pretty seriously with every element, and even more so, even though we're not doing independent film, which is where you typically find the new voices, I find it even more impactful when you're taking those new voices and putting them on big IP, putting them on big, because those are the moments that really change a career. They really change a moment. And frankly, they change projects because they make that project that feels kind of like, oh, here they go again. But when you have that new young artist bring that spark to it, it's exciting. So it actually makes the work really, we're able to discover a bunch of young directors on Top Boy that season. Nia DaCosta, she's now going off and doing, Captain Marvel. She was directed on that series. She did 2 great episodes for us on Top Boy. A brother named Ronaldo Marcus Green actually did the pilot for the Top Boy show. And we found that even back with Survivor's Remorse, where we had directors like Victoria Mahoney, just a bunch of great filmmakers that are coming out of that. And so we're always been about that. That writer's room was stacked too. I mean, it had everybody in that writer's room. Corey Jefferson, Tracy was in that writer's room. So it's really a community of new artists. And like I said, we're coming in a long tradition of amazing companies that are here already. Macro is here, Will Packer's here, all Ava's here. All these amazing companies are here. We're just another lighthouse for artists to bring their stories to. And frankly, we're still just at a place where we're getting to the point where people trust us with their stories because they realize, hey, this isn't a vanity play. This is real. These guys are making great content. They're telling the stories that we want to make. And so, we take a tremendous responsibility in artists trusting us with their stories. And so we feel like, we got to get these stories made. I'm from Buffalo, New York. LeBron and they're from Akron, Ohio. Like, we're from working class. We're not here to develop just to be, we want to make the things happen, And so all respect to development, but, it's also just about, making the product, putting the product out. And so we're having a lot of fun doing that. I hope that answers your question around empowerment, but yeah, I think it's up and down our slate. We take a tremendous amount of pride in it. So hopefully, and you should keep me honest too, but hopefully you'll see it in everything that we do. You'll see an element of empowerment, a writer that you might not know, a piece of talent you might not know, a filmmaker that you don't know. And that's what's exciting to us is because LeBron, and Matt likes to say it, LeBron is the human platform. If not for LeBron, there's no Maverick. If not for Maverick, there's no me. If not for me, then hopefully, so we have to pay it forward with regard to the platform and the opportunities that we have.
I got a lot of feels right now. A lot of feels. Since we're talking about culture, one of the things you see in think pieces is this kind of parallel between sports and Black culture and entertainment, and I kind of wanted to know, in your own opinion, why do you think our culture has become such a springboard for what actually is part of the popular zeitgeist? And more importantly, the things that you're programming and the things that you do, everything from I Promise all the way down has really kind of reflected what is important in the culture today.
That's a deep question. I don't know if I have the answer to that. Look, Black people are the culture. There's no doubt about it, right? And so we drive what's happening in America, which drives a lot of times what might be happening globally. And so, I think we're following those stories, and historically, we didn't have a chance to be producing those stories. Other folks were producing those stories. I think it's a powerful question that I can't tell you the answer to. I just know it is. I know it to be true. So it's good because it's a boundless amount of IP coming out of us. And so we don't want to limit ourselves to that. We do a big shiny floor game show on NBC called The Wall. You wouldn't know anybody was, behind that of color or anything like that, except for, the real ethos of the show is it's about, good things happening to good people. And so we actually found those contestants can't go on Hollywood Boulevard and get on the wall. You can't stand in line and get on the wall. You have to really do something, in your community that matters and sort of be nominated and sort of, found by our casting team. But, I'm probably not giving you a good answer. I would just say I agree with you on that, and we want to take, obviously, we want to tell those stories to the best of our ability.
No, that'd be good. You answered it perfectly. It's how you feel, and I feel the same way. So thank you for that. There was something that I'm a little curious about, but more importantly, it's about the dollars and cents of things, right? The business itself. You kind of alluded to, and there's been news lately about the Universal deal, Disney Plus, you kind of already mentioned about Audible, you got Netflix. One of the things that I was curious about is because of the culture that you have and the stories that you're compelled to tell, how much of it is internal and how much of it is external that is coming to you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think most of it is, a lot of it's internal in that when you talk about I promise, a lot of these are self-generated things, right? Or, but I think with anything, if we're doing it right, it should be kind of like a third, right? We should be developing a third of these things that are ours, chasing books. We just got this great book called New Kid, which is an amazing trilogy of books written by this author named Jerry Craft, which we're going to do at Universal. I'm so excited about. As a parent, it's like, imagine the first 20 pages of Spider-Verse, 20 minutes of Spider-Verse. And then we never become Spider. It's really just like, an amazing sort of diary of a wimpy kid for a black kid going to a private school, which was a situation I lived through and Mav and LeBron both lived through too. So what's it like, fish out of water, and how that can feel like the end of the world. So, it's kind of bringing some of those movies back that don't get made anymore. And that's a movie that we did. But then there's a movie like Space Jam, which, predates me, but, Warner Brothers, that movie was slated for LeBron James for forever, and, we went through a lot of filmmakers and went through a lot of development to get that to where it is. And it's really exciting. It's exciting to know where it is, and then there's other projects that come from other producers, right? That we may respond to or resonate with. So it's a great question. And when you talk about the business of it all, but we're always open to hearing great ideas and things that are coming from filmmakers or other producers or writers, and then things that are coming from our studio partners, whether they be on the audio side, TV side, film side, whether there's IP at that studio that we're developing, and then things that are homegrown, like I said, like I Promise, that kind of thing, where it's a story, Shooting Stars, which is really, the story of LeBron in high school. It's a coming of age story, it's very much like The Wood, but it's just LeBron James. And so that's where our stuff comes from. We're really fortunate to have, a founder who, although he's not an actor in the way typically a lot of these celebrity pods are, he has a lot of IP in and around him that we're able to mine. So to build out projects.
Okay. Follow up on that real quick. Since we're talking about culture and things like that, one thing going back to the culture itself is that, sports plays a big part in Black culture, and it's not uncommon when we look at Black entertainment, a lot of it is geared around sports. And I wanted to know, from a content person, as a content officer, why do you find, for yourself, or just in a general sense, why is that still so compelling even today in 2020?
Look, sports movies are some of my favorite movies. So, you kind of you might have caught the wrong guy. I'm such a sucker for it. But yes, look, I would say we try to do a good job of keeping our, really maybe about 40% of our slate to sports, right? Everything else is different, right? And so I hear you on that, and I think it's about telling. We need to tell the whole story of all the diaspora, right? We need to tell a lot of stories, contemporary stories, historical stories. I would challenge you, actually, Ed. I know it's your interview, but I would say it's mostly historical stories that I see us in. Like first this, first that. I would like to see more sports stories if we could, because we love those stories. But yeah, I think we have work to do. We have work to do. And we have to break through those tropes. We have to get into more nuanced stories. And I think we want to be a part of that change, our company, and I think we're definitely down to do that and empower folks to do that. Or let's use a sports movie to get into a different message, Like maybe the sports movie is the Trojan horse to get you into something that's a little different, a little bit out of your comfort zone with Black characters, So I think, I think the Marvel universe has done that the best, right? I mean, they find a way to get you into a movie, and then you're like, oh, this is a comedy, or this is a, this is a horror movie. I think Kevin Feige and what they've done, and to get you in all those movies have sort of unique genres and unique worlds. They're still Marvel IP, right? And so I think we have to challenge ourselves as producers to do that. But what do you think? You tend to think it's all sports movies. Is that what you said?
Well, not necessarily so. I totally agree with you. I feel that a lot of times when we look at kind of some of the movies that tend to do well, they tend to be kind of sports aligned. A brother trying to make it on a basketball team, a brother's going to a private school because he's got talent, a brother's, it's always those stories. And granted, they're not necessarily centered around him playing or her playing. It still has that sports element, which I feel is kind of the low-hanging fruit. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I was just kind of curious about that because, I mean, I like sports movies too. I was like, I'm older than you. So I was like, my favorite one is Brian's Song. I can never watch that movie without crying, right?
You're crying.
I cannot watch that movie without crying, even to this day. The Longest Yard.
A lot of music stories too.
Yeah, exactly. And I get it because it is about what success looks like for you and how people pigeonhole that success. Right. I get it. I don't always like it, but I get it. And I agree with you. We have to break those tropes. So thank you for sharing that answer. I think it was really important to have that being said. Off the wall question. We were talking about next generation. You mentioned interns. What's the first message or the thing that you tell your interns when they start?
Look, I typically tell people to, listen more than you're talking, because I feel like you're going to pick up more that way. And I feel like a lot of times people want to come in guns blazing. How can I add value? How can I be helpful? And a lot of times, you got to just sit back and listen, So that's typically what I would tell someone. On our team, it would be, look, it's hard because there's no days it's the same, So, we could be in production or we could not be, and there would be different things to do. But I typically think that listening is the best thing to be doing. And then, when you have an opportunity, show up, right? And, look, this is a sports trope, so sorry, but yeah, you have to be ready when they put you in the game. When the coach puts you in the game, you got to be ready. And so I think, preparing, being ready, and then finding a way to be indispensable once you're in the role, once you're in the job is really the key to all of it, and I'm finding, look, I'm super impressed always with the young people in this next generation. I mean, they're so inspiring, and they got to act together way more than I did. They're just so they're so about it. They're woke. They're really, really, really fast. I think that it's because they have so much information at their fingertips. So they can have, like all the things we were trying to do, trying to watch all these movies and all these films, and they're able to do that, with a click of a button. And so they have the references, and they have, so yeah, I've been really, really blown away by what I've seen. But I try to just tell folks to do more listening and talking, and find a way to get in where they fit in and be indispensable once they can.
So this one is kind of focused on 2020, the year that it was. By the way, I do like your Joe Biden slam dunk meme on Twitter. I think that was so appropriate. But I loved it. But let's talk about the coronavirus and how it has changed the industry. Like, we're talking now because we cannot get together. Like, that has just become the way that things have been. But the other part of that really has been, for a lot of people, it has caused depression. It's caused a lot of issues. But television and content specifically has been the saving grace. It gives people peace of mind. We binge a lot of content. And I was curious, throughout this pandemic, there is this idea that we got to keep pushing things out. But for SpringHill, did it change your focus during the pandemic? we have to create more, or are we evaluating things? Because it's not just creating content. A lot of the things is like people started putting out, like Netflix put out a lot of feel good content, for example. It was just things, diversionary content, anything that could be a part of the solution, not the problem. And I was curious as a CCO, and how the SpringHill Company, like, did that play into anything in any of your planning at all? Or did you think about it, or how do you feel about it?
Well, how do I feel about 2020? No. Yeah, I mean, of course, it played into it. I think, I'm really proud of the team. We got really nimble. Like I said, we put on, like Graduate Together was not an idea that was on our slate. It was an opportunity that came around due to the pandemic. I think, we really went deep into audio, development, right? So a lot of these projects, we went into audio development, and then, the unscripted stuff really never stopped. We're producing this amazing documentary right now about the Tulsa massacre, right? With this amazing, filmmaker named Selima Karoma. It's called Dreamland. And so, those small footprints really never stopped. I mean, we dealt with COVID protocols and we kept going. We produced the first half of the film in Philly for Netflix this fall as well, in the bubble, in a COVID bubble. So, it really hasn't slowed us down. It slowed us down in that, like, a lot of projects that probably would have shot this year are pushed to 21. But we still got in, a lot of production. But I would say, because we, like I said, we do so many things, whether it be audio, unscripted, we were able to, like, I think flex those muscles a little harder. And then, put some of the film stuff, which is pushing into 21, and keep those projects going. And like everybody, we developed developed. I'm really excited about all the projects that, we were able to, like, take a breath and, like, actually think, and think about, what we want to be making, to your point, and really focus on the projects that matter, and get things to a great place, and Zoom a lot, but yeah, I think that's really what 2020 brought. And I'm just really proud of what we were able to accomplish, in this year. I mean, we were able to, put out a lot of content, and so we benefited from everybody binging, Self-Made, Madam C.J. Walker, and, binging all those shows, and all our shows on Netflix, The Playbook, and now we're even, The Wall, which is a game show. People are watching that because it makes them smile, and it's co-viewing with their kids. And so we were able to do all that, and it's been exciting. I mean, I think, what's really next is what's interesting is, right, like what changes, right? What goes back to normal, right? I mean, that's the interesting part. But yeah, I mean, I'm really proud of what we were able to do in 2020. And we just, I think, like every small business, like every business, everybody had to pivot, right, in their own ways to survive.
So my final question is something I've been asking everybody this year, is on a personal level, what has the coronavirus pandemic taught you?
Oh man, that's a great one. I think on a personal level, I think it's taught me that I wasn't as balanced as I thought I was, right? You think you're balanced, right? You're like, I'm balanced, but like spending time with the family, spending time with my wife, really locking in on myself, right? You got to actually deal with yourself. So what I learned is I chose well. I chose a great partner. And I'm really just excited to, my kids are exciting, and we're having a blast. But yeah, I mean, I learned a lot. I mean, I went through all the emotions of early pandemic. I was ready to get up out of here. I was going crazy. I was pulling my hair out. And then now I'm actually pretty mellow and in a good routine, and then, yeah, it's fun to, like, be home and have dinner with your kids and your family, and, like, be locked in. So I think what I've learned is that all those, and I'm sure you're the same, like all those meetings or all those, I'm going to fly to New York just for a meeting or a dinner, all that is unnecessary, and we were all, I think, running a rat race. And so I think it's going to be liberating for folks, definitely for creative folks. I think it'll be very liberating in terms of the social pressure. And then with this business, the social pressure to be running around and be everywhere. So I'm excited for the reset that it gives us. But that's what I learned, is I was very fortunate as I chose well. And yeah, so, personally, that's what I went through. But I'm definitely about ready to get back to it. And I'm ready to go. Let's get this vaccine going and let's get back to normal. Let's get these theaters open, right? I don't know how you feel about that, but I mean, that would be fun to do that again. But yeah, I mean, in general, I think it's 2020 has kicked us all in the butt a little bit.
Man, I think I've developed a PhD in lazy. You know what I mean? Like, I have fully gone to school on how to be lazy. I have learned how to no, I don't have to do this today. I can do this tomorrow. And my calendar, my calendar is set up. So absolutely. But yeah, a lot of the things you're right. It does make you reflect on what's important, It makes you reflect. But yeah, man. So I have to say, thank you so much for this time. This has been a great conversation. I am really proud of the work that your company does. I think that SpringHill is going to be that company that we're going to be talking about for a long time. And the projects that you're working on are so inspiring. So I have to thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, man. Anytime, anything you guys need, Gil knows I'm a huge fan of what you guys do for the community, what you guys do for the town. And anything you need, let me know.
That was Jamal Henderson, Chief Content Officer at the SpringHill Company. Now, if you'd like to keep up with King James and the teamwork that makes the dream work, be sure to follow SpringHill Company on Facebook and Instagram. And that's our show. Thanks again to Jamal Henderson taking part in this interview. And have you been keeping up with AFCA lately? Be sure to subscribe to the AFCA channel on YouTube and follow our socials on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So until next time, keep your head up.